While we were all enjoying some time off over the holidays, maybe enjoying some time with family, maybe enjoying time avoiding family. I don't know how well you get along with your family. There was still a lot of people in the Middle East. You're not going to believe this. They're not getting along too well over there. I know, it's shocking. That's usually such a stable, calm part of the world. It blows my mind whenever they break that pattern. But apparently there has been some disruptions in the oil industry with Red Sea attacks. And I didn't know much about this, so we got someone who is keeping up a better track on this for you. Rey Trevino, he runs the Pecos Country Operating, a privately owned oil and gas exploration company that's headquartered in Fort Worth. So, RT, what is going on with these attacks in the Red Sea, and why does that concern the oil industry so much?
Well, Jane, good to be on, and I hope you're having a great 2024 so far. This should concern us because this will, at some point, raise the price of a barrel of oil, which will then raise the price at the gasoline pump, is why this should concern us at this time. And what this does is just add more upward pressure on that pricing.
Well, the price of oil, for those of you who aren't keeping up with it, is around 78, just under $80. But it did jump up to almost 3% so far just this year in the couple of days that we've had trading. Is that directly linked to these Red Sea attacks?
Well, right now I know that the West Texas crude is somewhere between $70 and $73 is where we've been averaging that here over the last few days. And a little bit of that is due to that little bit of a speculation. And if this was 10 or 15 years ago, we would have seen probably a $10 spike in the price just because of the discomfort that's going on right now in the Red Sea. Right now, basically what's happening is all Western country companies are being bullied by their tankers and their cargo ships. And rather than traveling through the Red Sea unscathed and go through the Suez Canal there in Egypt, they're having to go through the Red Sea and all the way down through, past all the way at the bottom of Africa to the Cape of Good, and then come back up just to get to the port of Amsterdam or New York or even here in the Gulf of Mexico. And those costs are going to go up. Those are travel costs, more expense for a longer time for the men to be out. So these are costs that we will see here in America in the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Well, you really are on top of it because I gave you the price of Brent crude and you corrected me with West Texas Intermediate crude. So, well, you must keep up with this all day, every day. That was spot on. So I was surprised to learn, when you see the jump and you're like, well, is this a story? What's behind it? Right now, going on in the Middle East, you have these oil tankers, and what we had on Sunday, for us, that was New Year's Eve. But for someone on an oil tanker in the Red Sea, we had to have U.S. attack helicopters repel an attack by Iran, what's suspected to be Iranian-backed Houthi forces. They had a bunch of boats that were trying to knock these tankers out of commission, and we ended up sinking 3 of these Houthi vessels, killing at least 10 of the militants, and we are having to shoot our way out of the Red Sea to get oil to this other side of the planet.
And yet you would think because of something like that, the price should have gone up tremendously, and it hasn't. And it's really a shame. But part of that is just due to the fact that we have produced as much as we have. But right now, I do want to point out that all the ships that are being unscathed, James, are part of what's known as the BRICS alliance, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And Iran is now part of that group, and so is India. So they're all using the Suez Canal there in Egypt willy-nilly as normal as every day. And so, I do know that whatever military forces are there that are not the United States, that equipment is probably 20 or 30 years old. So our military is not, knock on wood, sweating anything, but we sure as heck don't want to get into fisticuffs at any form or fashion, because I would think that would be the domino that knocks oil prices up very high.
Well, here's another concern we have going on here is why now? Well, why weren't they doing this a year ago? Why weren't they doing this 2 years ago? Does this have to do with Hamas versus Israel, or what's behind it?
That's a great question, and I think if I knew the exact answer to that one, we would all be in a better place, hopefully. Right now, obviously, the Middle East sees us as weak. We have an administration, James, that is not doing anything about what's going on. We have just now started to retaliate after over 100 attacks on U.S. military areas and U.S. Property there in the Middle East. And with what's going on against our brothers in Israel, which is horrific, this gives the Iranians an opportunity to test those boundaries that we have as Americans with the rules of law of war, I would assume. And that is why we're seeing them kind of beat their chest right now and try to, flex some power in the Middle East.
Well, is there something we can do here in Texas and largely speaking in America in general to start replacing the oil that we're getting over there with more drilling over here, or is that a non-starter as well?
No, sir. That is what we need to do. The first thing, and again, this is what we really, what I would think, and I'll give you the crude truth, and I do have a great podcast, by the way, called The Crude Truth.
Oh, I love that pun, by the way. You get a ding for that pun. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, James. We need to elect officials that are America First individuals. And yes, we need to be drill, baby, drill. We need to get more oil being produced in America, because here's the bottom line. We are producing right now, James, more oil than we ever have in America under this administration. However, we are not replacing that oil that's coming out of the ground or replacing the oil that was in the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. The only way to do that is to drill, baby, drill, and get that oil. And because at some point, Economics 101, the demand is going to go up, and unfortunately, we will not have that supply.
I'm asking more than telling here. Is this because the oil that's coming out of the ground now is from projects that were started under the previous administration? Because it seems weird that you could say in the same paragraph that we have an anti-oil administration, but oil's at an all-time high. What's the explanation for that?
You're spot on. The easiest way I can describe that is we have opened up the faucet spigot on the outside hose. What us operators and E&P, oil and gas exploration and producers are doing is basically producing higher volumes of oil from the wells that we currently have, and we've cut back on our drilling. For an example, this year as a family office here in Fort Worth, we're scheduled to drill, a modest 8 to 12 wells for us this year. If this was probably the Trump administration, I would say conservatively a minimum of 16, because we have an administration that was pro-oil. The regulations and the permitting were a lot more friendly, because this administration is also putting heavier regulations and restrictions on permitting for us in the oil and gas industry at this time.
Well, great discussion. This is Rey Trevino from Pecos Country Energy, something that it would be a bigger story if it didn't make somebody look bad politically. So I'm glad you were able to take some time and help me expose what's going on that's getting overlooked. Thank you, RT.
Oh, thank you, James, and I wish you and all your listeners an epic 2024.
Yeah, Happy New Year.